Hello, welcome to Two Out the First. It's February the 10th, 2026. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here. We've got plenty of things to discuss over the last few days. We've got a two-time winner on the PGA Tour this year already, and it's not who you think it would be. How about that? We also have Patrick Reed effectively locking up a PGA Tour card through the DP World Tour, and then we'll throw in a little discussion about TGL at the start of the show, with Neal Shipley making the first ever TGL ace last night. He was playing for the Bay GC in his debut for them, and they were playing against LA Golf Club, and they were playing the triples, triple person alternate shot format. And from 110 yards, so they shortened this hole from 210 yards to 110 yards. And Shipley hit this wedge that was right on target, and then obviously the sim did the rest. The ball hit, took one bounce, spun right back into the hole. It was really cool. I had no idea what the first TGL ace was going to look like. There have been some close calls, but that it was that cool to kind of see everyone go nuts. Shipley went nuts. His teammates went nuts. They were hugging and jumping. Obviously, they won the hole because Tommy Fleetwood didn't reciprocate, didn't match ace for ace. So they wound up winning the hole. It was just really cool to see. I mean, everyone was happy for him. It felt like a normal ace celebration. Lots of awkward white guys jumping around, trying to figure out how to do it in real time. That's what every ace celebration looks like. Is you have this in your brain of how you're going to celebrate your first ace, and then it happens, and none of that matters. Your body does stuff, and your other friends' bodies do things, and then you eventually somehow get to a high five or a handshake or jumping around or whatever, and that's how it ends. So kudos to Neal Shipley for making the most of his TGL appearance. He and Luke Clanton were playing. Neither of them are in the Siggy this week, the signature event at Pebble Beach. So they were available, and they made the most of it. Good for them. So that was cool. Let's talk about Patrick Reed for a little bit. And I don't know if that's a great move to talk about the not so popular player first, but he's going to the PGA Tour in 2027 with a full card. It's coming. Accept it. He won the Qatar Masters or Qatar Masters, depending on who you are, where you say it. But he won that by 2 shots on Sunday on the DP World Tour. Second win in 3 starts. The other start was a playoff loss in Bahrain to Freddie Schott. And now he has almost 2,300 points in the race to Dubai. Last year, 10th in the race to Dubai was about 2,590 points, I think it was, Alex Noren. And that would mean in an absolute bonkers world where exactly the first 10 people in the race to Dubai were players who weren't already exempt on the PGA Tour in 2026 or for 2027 rather. Then Patrick Reed is 200 and some, basically 300 points away from a guaranteed PGA Tour card. And we all know that it doesn't work like that. You get Rory McIlroy up there, you get Tommy Fleetwood up there, Shane Lowry up there, Victor Hovland up there. You get those guys up there because they have access to the majors and stuff like that. And they get access to Race to Dubai points through those things because they're DP World Tour members. So that it doesn't work like that. Like the number 10 guy isn't the cutoff. It's usually like number 14, 15, 16, somewhere in that range that could be the cutoff. So kudos to Patrick Reed. You're going to the PGA Tour, man. It reminded me of, what basically a decade ago when Reed was going through the Monday qualifier circuit. He and Justine she was the caddy. They were going to Monday qualifiers. He was getting through them. He was making the most of them, and then eventually parlayed that into status. Then won a major. Obviously, his brother-in-law is Kessler Crane is now the caddy and has been for a long time. But he's plowing through the DP World Tour, and I don't know how to feel about that from a competitive perspective. I mean, I can put my personal feelings aside about Patrick Reed. Maybe he's mature, maybe he hasn't. Does seem more mature. Thought it was interesting how I felt to see him playing well these last few weeks. And you know what? It would be nice to have him back in the mix. But that aside, he and Callum Hill, and Jaden Shaper, and Daniel Hillier are really the names, other than Freddie Schott, who won. And that was his first career win on the DP World Tour. those are the guys that are making their names for themselves so far this season on the circuit. Shaper won twice in the African early portion of the season, so he's not guaranteed a card yet. He's still got a little ways to go. He's basically a little more than halfway there. But because Reed won the Dubai Desert Classic, which is a Rolex Series event, you basically get halfway to a card based on that win and Race to Dubai points. Callum Hill gave him a run again. Callum Hill should have won in Bahrain. He didn't. He dropped the shot on the final hole to get into the three-way playoff with Reed and Schott, which Schott won. And he's doing pretty well. Again, he's still a long way from home because he doesn't have a win. A win in these kind of $2.75 million events is worth 585 points. I don't want to get all mathy on you, but basically, if you don't win a Rolex Series event or a major or something like that, your path to that PGA Tour card through the top 10 of the Race to Dubai is 4 wins. It's a lot. So you have to play very, very well and consistently if you don't win, or if you're only getting into these events, these minimum kind of Race to Dubai events, to be able to get a PGA Tour card. So kudos to Reed for winning Dubai. That really made it possible. And if you made me think about it, I think Reed winning that tournament allowed him to make the decision to try to come back to the PGA Tour. He knew the math. He knew he was halfway to a DP World Tour, to a PGA Tour card through the DP World Tour. And he figured, you know what? I'm going to try it. He probably got lowballed by Liv. Said, you know what? If I do what I do, which is play this kind of grinder style golf that really is his bread and butter, then he can get a card. He can get back to the PGA Tour. He can't be denied at that point. He'll get into every regular season event. More importantly, I don't know that he realized this at the time, but he moved up into the top 30 in the world, which will get him into every major this year outside of the Masters. He's already in the Masters as a winner, so he's in there for life. But now being in the top, now he's 17th in the world. He's 17th in the world. He wins one more time, he's probably in the top 12 and maybe top 10. And I don't mean like a big event. I mean like another one of these win 21 points or winning a DP World Tour event situations. It could be like that. It's crazy where he is right now. So he's in all the majors. Also, more importantly, if he can kind of keep this position in the world ranking, then when we get to the signature events in 2027 on the PGA Tour, he will have to be granted access to all of them because, other than the Century, because the top 30 in the official world golf ranking get in all of those events automatically. So if he can maintain this level in the world ranking for a consistent period, and he's obviously shown no reason why he can't, then he's going to be in all of the signature events, every last one of them next year. And all he's going to have to do is do it through the DP World Tour. Not that that's easy. I think he's got plenty of competition. Obviously, there's kind of a battery of 4 or 5 guys that are playing the best golf on the circuit right now. They take a break this week, no event this week. They go to Kenya, have a couple in South Africa, and then little scamper over to Asia as they get ready for the Masters tournament. But he made the right call, and I'm guessing he made the call after winning in Dubai, that he could bet on himself. He's not a brand, right? It's not like people are begging to put their logo on Patrick Reed. It's not like people are begging off to see him on Live, right? But this is an opportunity for him to do some goodwill, earn some goodwill by coming back to the PGA. Yes, I realize there are people who are never going to be okay with him, either because of how he's treated people, the cheating accusations, the actual cheating, the taking the money from Liv. All those things may make him irredeemable to plenty of golf fans, and I think that's fair. But for him, the best option really was, all right, bet on yourself. If you say you're coming back to the PGA Tour, say this is what about, you want to be on the best tour in the world, this is what you want, say the right things, do the right things, and succeed, maybe people will welcome you back in a way that might not otherwise been welcomed back if you just left Live after your next contract or whatever. So I think this was a pretty savvy move, and Reed's got the game to do it, clearly. So does that mean the DP World Tour is lessened because this guy started showing up and just beating the pants off everybody. No, I think it actually helps the DP World Tour because it proves if you are motivated and if you are a world-class player, you can go to that tour and you can decide how your fate works out. You're in control of your destiny. If you play great, then you're good to go, and you'll figure it out. And if you're not, well, it's a great place to play anyway. It's one of my favorite tours to watch. It's coffee golf. You can't be mad about that. And you get to watch that every week. You don't get to watch the Korn Ferry Tour every week. I love the Korn Ferry Tour. Obviously, we did a show about it for 2 seasons with Brendan Sweeney on the Road to French Lick. That format's changed, but they only show 10 tournaments every year of the Korn Ferry Tour on TV, and the vast majority of them are at the end of the season. So the first 2, right, you get those because they're in the Bahamas, and the Bahamas is paying for it through their tourism authority. But other than that, I mean, you won't see anything in Latin America. They barely acknowledge the tournaments happen. And then they show up to Savannah or wherever in the continental U.S. to start that portion of the schedule, and that's not until basically the Masters at that point. And I guess Lakewood Ranch, but that type of thing. And by then, there's no television or hardly any television up until, I don't know, Memorial Day. But those are the stars of tomorrow, and they don't get any kind of TV. But meanwhile, in the DP World Tour, they obviously have European Tour Productions. They put in a great amount of effort to broadcast their tour to the world, and they do a great job with it. And you get to see that every week. Those guys are incredible. I mean, they're fabulous on both tours. But that's why I love the DP World Tour. Yes, it is the kind of second tier tour. That's okay. It's still incredible golf. And when you get the European standouts home to play their biggest events, it's as good as anything you're going to see. So anyway, congrats to Patrick Reed. You basically done the job done. You're going to the PGA Tour in 2027. All right. So now we've got a 2-time winner this year on the PGA Tour, and that guy is Chris Gotterup. He won the Phoenix Open, WM Phoenix Open, in the playoff against Hideki Matsuyama. Hideki bogeyed the final hole of regulation to shove himself into a playoff when really he was kind of gifted the opportunity to win from Michael Thorbjornsen, who bogeyed a couple holes down the stretch to go from the lead to behind and couldn't claw his way back. Gotterup was sitting there on 16 under in the clubhouse, and Hideki came back to him. They got to the playoff. Hideki finds the water. There's some concern about chairs and fans and stuff, and that is understandable. But he finds the water. Gotterup made birdie, which kind of rendered it a moot point anyhow. He was going to make 3. 3's going to win a playoff on that 18th hole every time. Now he's a 2-time PGA Tour winner this year, a 4-time PGA Tour winner overall, and he is 5th in the world, I think it is. That's incredible. A guy that, last year before March, before April, you're like, all right, yeah, he won Myrtle Beach. That's cool. He's got some potential, but very erratic. And in the space of not even, from July, so 7 months, something like that, 7-8 months, went from, all right, 1-time PGA Tour winner to, you don't want to face this guy when it's close. I mean, he stared down Rory McIlroy and the best players in the world at the Scottish Open, and then he goes and wins the Sony Open this year on a very different golf course than I would expect normally works for him, although I guess if you know the dunes, is really not that different. And then he plays great desert golf at TPC Scottsdale and manages to win that. And obviously he's in great position now. He's got an extension on his PGA Tour exemption. So he got 2 years for winning at Myrtle Beach. That didn't expire, so you get another one, another one, another one. So basically he's exempt through, I believe, 2029 now on the PGA Tour. So he's got nothing to worry about there. Obviously, he's in all the signature events. He's a top 10 player in the world, top 5 player in the world. He has to have all the confidence that you need. He has to at least keep in the back of his mind that he beat Scotty Scheffler. Yeah, Scheffler didn't have his best game. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You beat Scotty Scheffler. Take that and run with it, man. So incredible for him to be able to do that and say that. And golf kind of has a new superstar. And from a selfish perspective, as a guy from Maryland who lives in Maryland. It's cool to have a guy who was born in Maryland and would be considered a Maryland native, even though obviously he doesn't live there anymore. He moved to Florida, but to be a Maryland guy that's put a stake in the ground for golf, that's great. I mean, obviously Denny McCarthy we root for, go to the same country club, root for him, but to have another guy that's a world-class player, calls Maryland part of his home story, his life story, that's cool. And apparently he made the absolute right decision to move from Oklahoma in the offseason to Florida. And he said this at the Sony Open that I thought was interesting. Didn't get a lot of play at the time. I think it will get more play now. That he moved from Oklahoma to Florida in the offseason because he didn't want to play golf in November and December in 40-mile-per-hour winds when it was cold as hell, because Oklahoma can get really nasty weather-wise. I mean, really cold and also really windy. And it's probably not the ideal place to be spending your time in November and December when you're trying to get ready for a PGA Tour season. So he makes the move, gets to play in conditions that are a little bit more receptive to playing tour-style golf, wins out the gate, wins again. Now he's set. I mean, he's going to be there for a while, and that at least in the top 10 in the world. And now he has nothing left to prove but win a major. And really fascinating to go from a guy who was like, yeah, I mean, we're happy to have you. Nice that you're a one-time winner. Nice that you're a two-time winner. Oh, multi-win season. Now you get to shoot up the list of guys who are the best in the world to have not won a major. And you've had pretty limited access to the majors to this point. So expectations game probably changes a little bit internally, right? I mean, he's got to start thinking, hey, I'm a 4-time PGA Tour winner. I can do this. I can clearly do this. And I think, not that we're going to suddenly have another Scottie Scheffler story where Chris Gotterup wins 20 times in the space of 4 years or whatever. I'm not saying that. But golf is a game of confidence. Golf is a game of self-belief. Yes, technique is very important, but if you look at the best player, I mean, Scottie Scheffler is the best player in the world, and his trail foot moves like it's not even on the ground in his swing. You don't have to be conventional. It doesn't have to be perfect. You have to figure out what works for you, believe it, and do it every time. And I think that Chris Gotterup is quickly getting to that point where he clearly believes in what he's doing, and he can clearly execute what he wants when it matters. And that, having that, the clutch gene, the thing that not a ton of people have, that when it gets awkward and when it's winning time, and if you've ever played a competitive sport, when it comes time to finish the deal, you know what that feels like. And I don't care if it's your club championship or a member guest or whatever it is. You feel different. Even if you think, oh, this isn't really that important, it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. When it comes time to win, you feel different. I played darts tournaments every once in a while, every couple of years. And I played in one last fall, and I hadn't played in one in like 2 or 3 years. And I was warming up for the match and throwing darts. Everything felt fine. I was like, yes, it's going to be good. Literally, as I walked up to the board, called the Aki, the space where you throw from, for the first dart of the actual match, I went from everything feels fine to I can't feel my arm. It was so jacked up with adrenaline. I couldn't calm my arm down to not throw it way too hard. And it didn't matter. I mean, I figured out how to get to the last leg. I should have won the match. I screwed that up. But again, I could never control that. It's different for me in darts than it is for golf. In golf, I can kind of control it a little bit better. But even then, it's still a totally different feeling when you get to that moment. And for Chris Gotterup, he's figured out how to handle it, and he's done it the right way 4 different times. And they aren't blowaway. They're not runaways. They're close ones. So he has to have a ton of confidence and self-belief from here that this is something he can do, take to a bigger level, and he can continue to beat increasingly better fields. I mean, he had 30 of the world top 50 he beat. It's not like he's beaten skunk fields here. The first one, the Oppo at Myrtle Beach, because it was an Oppo, people probably thought, oh, he's going to be a fluke guy. It's not going to be much of anything because that just kind of is that way sometimes. But nope, this guy's for real, and it's awesome to see. Congrats to him. It's cool to have another star in golf. We need stars. We need guys who can win. We need guys who can be foils. We need guys who can rival the best in the world. And they got to come from somewhere. And we talked about Luke Clanton at the beginning of the show. Like, he's going to be a world beater. Not quite there yet. Neal Shipley was a potential world beater a couple years ago when he was coming out as an amateur and trying to make his way on the PGA Tour. Now he's a PGA Tour member, just made his first cut, right? Like, just made his first cut in Phoenix as a full-time PGA Tour member. So the path to glory, the path to being great is not straight. Even if you're highly touted, the golf world does not care how highly touted you are. They only care if you can win. And that's how you start to get an effect on players. That's how you start to become intimidating when your name's on the leaderboard. Ask Scottie Scheffler. The difference between 4 years ago when he broke through at Phoenix and now when his name is on the leaderboard and what players think when his name is on the leaderboard is completely different. That's going to start to change for Chris Gotterup now, which that's pretty cool for him. Pretty cool to see that happen in real time. All right, we've got plenty of action this week. Not a ton, not as much as prior weeks. DP World Tour is off, but PGA Tour is playing the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Liv is in Adelaide, Australia at the Grange for their second event. We have the Chubb Classic on the PGA Tour Champions. We do not have a Korn Ferry Tour event. They're off this week, going to get a little break before they go back for the rest of the Latin America swing. And then we've got the DP World Tour back next week for the Magical Kenya Open, which is always kind of a little crapshoot, but a fun tournament nevertheless. All right. LPGA also comes back next week as well because they start their Winter Asian swing. So we'll have kind of closer to a full boat next week. But we got 3 events this week. That's good. All right. So we're going to talk about those. We'll have a show for you on Thursday to talk about them. If you are interested in anything around fantasy golf and golf betting, my other podcast, The Press, will be out today in audio and video form and get you ready for everything AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Otherwise, you can get a hold of me on social media. Handles Ryan Ballingy or Ryan Ballingy Golf. It's probably best to just look in the show description and click on that instead of having to spell my name. And I'm also on Blue Sky at ryan.thegolfnewsnet.com. You can also find Golf News Net on your favorite social media service at the handle Golf News Net. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time here on 2 Off the First.